of that nature, things 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 of that nature.
Well, Razorback fans, getting closer to game weekend, as we get ready for Arkansas and Auburn on Saturday on the Plains. And man, what a game it's going to be. No one really knows what's going to happen, but that's, hey, part of the fun. So let's get a little bit of knowing the Auburn Tigers by going behind enemy lines with a very special guest today. First time, I believe, that we've ever talked in an official capacity other than SEC Media Days and karaoke. Of course, is Taylor Korn of The Next Round out of Birmingham, Alabama. And Taylor, appreciate you joining us. How you doing this afternoon? I'm
great. That was an incredible intro, by the way.
Thanks.
I'll start off by saying that. That was good. I got a good kick out of that. But yeah, it's going to be – this game has gotten a lot more interesting than I think a lot of people initially thought it was going to be. So I'm personally very excited. I'll be down there tomorrow afternoon. So it should be a fun weekend.
Yeah, I was actually going to start right there because we've been talking about here in Arkansas the level of excitement or lack thereof, the level of confidence or lack thereof with the team, with the program, with Sam Pittman. It's kind of a weird situation right now. But Auburn obviously went 6-6 last year with Hugh Freeze first year, kind of expecting some things going in the right direction here, but they did lose a game at home to Cal. So what's the vibe overall for Auburn fans and the fan base right now? You know, it's still early in the season, still early in the tenure of Hugh Freeze, but how are the Auburn fans feeling, generally speaking, right now heading into this game?
After Cal, sick, disgusted, heartbroken, and hopeless, I would say, are all good words to describe how I personally was feeling, as well as the majority of the fan base. And I think there was also a lot of frustration because Tom Luganville, I'm taking this quote from him, he was on The Next Round on Monday, and Dunaway Brown and Lance were asking him about the quarterback situation. Do you think, the switch from Peyton Thorne to Hank Brown was the right move? And he said, how many times does someone have to show you who they are before you start to believe them in terms of Peyton Thorne? And I think that that's where a lot of the frustration from the fan base lay, was we've seen the same mistakes over and over and over from Peyton Thorne, and he's a fifth year. So if he isn't able to, correct these mistakes watching film and stuff over the years, is he going to be able to? And I think the transition from the Peyton Thorne to the Hank Brown era revitalized the fan base and gave everyone a little bit more hope and a little bit more excitement, because I think if Peyton Thorne would have rolled out, which as much as I hate this, if he would have rolled out as Auburn starting quarterback versus New Mexico last week, I would not have been surprised at all if the stadium was filled with boos, which breaks my heart. I don't think that you should ever do that to your own players, but I think that's just kind of where we were at, was why are we still doing this when we're seeing the same things happen over and over? So I think that change definitely restored hope in Auburn as a whole.
Well, also, I've been pretty fascinated with the things you talked about with the quarterback situation. Like, does that shake, and I assume it does, shake kind of the trust that maybe some fans have for Hugh Freeze and the coaching staff of being able to choose the right guy? Because trust me, covering Arkansas, there's been a lot of times they didn't have the right guy in place there. But I feel like that's something that's got to be extremely frustrating, especially early in the year, where it's like, as you said, the quote, how many times do you need to see it before you know? Well, this is a coaching staff that sees it every day in practice and all that, and yet they didn't know. So that's got to add to the frustration, I'm sure, for fans.
Well, something that Hugh Freeze talked about prior to announcing that Hank was starting, I believe it was right after the Cal game during that post-game press conference, he said, it's really hard not to start the guy that performs better day after day after day after day in practice. So it seems as if he looked really good in practice, and then when it came game time, I don't know what it was, but he's plays better in practice than he does in games. And I think that's what it boiled down to. But they talked to quarterbacks last season in the portal. And I think what it boiled down to, which I don't know the details of what exactly happened there, But I think what it boiled down to was, do we want to go spend $1 million in the portal on a quarterback when we're not just a quarterback away from making a run at a championship? Or do we want to, just stick it out if we feel confident enough that Peyton Thorne can do enough to run a successful or efficient offense? Then don't throw all your eggs in one basket for this one position player if there's a lot of other improvements that need to be made on the roster for you to, make a run at a championship, SEC championship, national championship, whatever it might be. So I see where that could become a concern with, I guess, scouting talent. But at the same time, I think it's just, is now the right time to invest that much into a singular player when you have a roster that was very, very depleted when you took over? And I think the other arguing point there was Peyton will look better when he has better weapons around him. And they did that, and it obviously didn't make too much of a difference. Game 1, Alabama A&M, you have to take, the level of competition into consideration there. That's how he should have looked. But then you have, the level of competition's increased, but that is not anywhere near the most challenging game you're going to have when it comes to Cal. And you're seeing some of the same issues. Not all of it was Peyton's fault, but he's still making the same mistake. So I get it to an extent, because if you're basically gonna, if you're gonna drop $1 million on a 1-year rental basically of a player, is it really worth it if that's not all that you need?
Well, we'll talk about the game specifically here in a second, but I've been curious about, with the Hugh Freeze thing. He did a great job at Ole Miss, thanks to 4th and 25, and the Hunter Henry heave kept him from winning the SEC West. Not that I remember that, or I'm going to mention it every time I mention Hugh Freeze. But him being at Auburn and knowing the ever-changing SEC, obviously Nick Saban's no longer at Alabama. We'll see what DeBoer does there, but what do fans kind of see him doing? Like, what's the expectation for him? And is it a national championship? Do they think that he's that good of a coach and that they can do that with Hugh Freeze at the helm? Or just what do they expect to see out of a Hugh Freeze program?
I think a lot of expectations, which my expectations are always unrealistic. I think that we're gonna win the national championship every season. And I think that that's kind of how a lot of the fan base is. And I think that's why that loss, which Auburn should not have lost to Cal. They shouldn't have lost that game. But I think that's why you're coming off all of this recruiting momentum from the summer, and you're at the highest of highs as a fan base. You lose one game and you're at the lowest of lows. And so I think it's I don't know what the phrase is. I know there's a phrase out there, but you can never stay medium. You can never celebrate the win, but keep realistic expectations. It's either this is amazing or this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And so I think a lot of the expectations are unrealistic, and this cannot be an excuse anymore. But I think the rebuild of this roster, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time considering what he took over, and you can't blame this on Brian Harsin anymore. You can't, but it's not like he took over a program that was in a very good place. So, I mean, eventually, yeah, I would like to see Auburn back contending for a national championship. When is a realistic timetable? Who knows? But for this season, I think going into the season, 8 wins was what people wanted to see. That was going to be enough improvement to keep people happy, people as in fans. And, I mean, the road – losing to Cal obviously made that road a lot more difficult. So I think that people expect him to have Auburn contending for championships, yes, but I don't know what a realistic timetable is, because with the transfer portal, you're like you can flip a roster so much faster, but guys can also leave that fast as well. So what is realistic? I don't know, because I've never been realistic and I've never had realistic expectations. So give him a few years. Yes, I think that next year, hopefully, we should be extremely competitive in the league. But
yeah, I think that Arkansas fans felt that same way. You just never know. You never know how it's going to be. But obviously, Auburn has been a team that's had success previously. Something about y'all and Arkansas State former coaches that y'all love, like between Malzahn and Harsin and now Freeze. Even Tommy Tuberville's from Arkansas. So something about those Arkansas connected coaches that do good over there at Auburn, but never actually coach at Arkansas. It makes sense. But we're speaking with Taylor Korn of the Next Round here on the show. Now, I'm curious, Taylor, because I've been looking at the stats for both teams. It's actually kind of crazy how pretty equal these two teams are as far as some of their strengths and some of their weaknesses. I was looking at, the offense for Arkansas has been really good. It's fifth in the country, third in the SEC in total offense. But Auburn's done a good job too, as sixth in the SEC and 22nd in the country. But it's the way they go about it, because the offense is good. The defense has been suspect, but both teams can't stop the pass. Both teams are having those issues. Both teams cannot get to the quarterback. Both teams have a terrible turnover margin. So there's a lot of similarities here. But if you're Arkansas, what is the key to beating Auburn in your mind? Like, what is the thing that, hey, if Arkansas just does this one thing, more than likely they're going to beat the Auburn Tigers. They're in Auburn.
Something that you mentioned is my biggest concern for Auburn defensively, which is the secondary. It has been atrocious, I would say. And there has been an injury. Kayum Lee was out last game, and he was listed as probable on the injury report last night. And I think that most are expecting him to play. So I think that should help the secondary a lot. But I mean, if you can have success through the air, I have minimal to no confidence in Auburn secondary right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it for Arkansas too. And people say the same thing, but I guess maybe Arkansas fans kind of look at it as, oh, well, they played Oklahoma State on the road, a top 25 team. Like maybe that went into the pieces there, but also Arkansas didn't do much against UAB, the team right there in Birmingham, which was a close game too. But the other thing is about the rushing attack is both of these teams have really good running backs. Obviously, Jaquindon Jackson has been phenomenal for Arkansas. He's averaging just 8.4 yards a carry, no big deal. But Jarquez Hunter is really good too. So is the key for that offense simply just to establish the running attack? Obviously, Hank Brown, if he has a great game, that's great too. But the best friend for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, starting in an SEC game, regardless if it's at home, seems to be having a good rushing attack to be able to establish it. So is that the key to the offense for Auburn, is just establishing that run?
I think Jarquez Hunter having a big game is definitely important. They started having success in the second half against New Mexico last week. And before then, a lot of people weren't talking about Auburn's running back room this offseason, I think, because there wasn't a question mark there. People knew what to expect because of what the production that was coming back. But they hadn't made a ton of noise, and especially in the first half of the New Mexico game, it wasn't until the third and fourth quarters of that game that they started being very effective. And I think that is something that will be very important if Auburn wins this game. That will play a vital role in it. And I think it will just take a little bit of pressure off of Hank Brown. This is his first career start was last weekend. And I think that they made the switch at the perfect time because he kind of gets his feet wet with New Mexico, and then competition will slowly become better as the season progresses. But it'll take so much pressure off of him if we have success running the ball, because, then he's not going to think it's make or break on me being able to complete passes. But one thing about him is he does not seem to get fazed by much. He's very composed, which again, we have seen very little of him, but when he's been out on the field, he's kept his composure very well.
Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit fun with it, because I did a podcast here recently strictly dedicated to why I hate Auburn. And the thing is like I hate every SEC school, so Auburn fans shouldn't take it personally. It's just Arkansas doesn't have a rival, so they just got to hate everybody. But when you think of Arkansas, which Auburn has owned Arkansas pretty much, as soon as Gus Malzahn arrived, it seems like it's been that way. But when you think of Arkansas and Arkansas football in general, is there anything that comes into mind? Maybe a game that comes to mind that you first hear about?
I don't like this. Not really. There's one play that comes to mind, but this just isn't really a rivalry to me.
It's not.
And that's what I think. And I've seen a lot of social media banter, which is one of the best things about college football is the banter on the internet. But it's a lot of like, stop acting like this is a rivalry. I don't really know who's acting like it's a rivalry, but
no clue.
If you're out there, if you're listening to this and you're the one acting like it's a rivalry, please stop, because it's not. But the Bo Nix debacle, was it 2019?
2020.
2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I feel like that's one of the more controversial things that has happened because of this.
Yeah. Not that anybody remembers or that I remember anything about that game happening and then him spiking it and then Joe Fouché, the defensive back for Arkansas, recovering it pretty quickly. And then they do a review and then they say, no, there wasn't a clear immediate recovery, so it doesn't count. And then the SEC having to apologize once again to Arkansas for giving the game to Auburn. No, I don't think about that game.
Again, if you think that Auburn is the team in this state that gets given games.
Come on now. Hey, listen. Hey, both y'all over there in Alabama, get your stuff. But I'm just saying, Auburn's the luckiest football program in this conference. 100%.
Or they just make plays.
It's luck.
Capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and you did. I'm not hating you for it, but I mean, let's be honest. There's always some shenanigans that go on. It seems like where it's like, we got to take care of these teams in Alabama because our home office is here. So got to make sure that.
Okay. Well, my thing there is, okay, if the luck is an issue, then don't keep the game close enough to where luck can win a game.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's points on the board to where those little mishaps.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you've heard this before because you know exactly the games and the plays we're talking about or I'm talking about, because I'm sure you get a lot of crap for it. So, but I was going to say, it's not just those plays. I felt like, falling backwards into Cam Newton, because like, let's be honest, he was looking to get $180,000 from Mississippi State and they were going to offer it to him. But then he said, "No, what? I'm going to Auburn for free. I'm going to go there."
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be a Tiger.
He just wanted to win a national championship for the greatest fan base in college football. And who blames him?
Yeah.
And look what he did.
Listen, I say he's the greatest college football player of all time because he took an Auburn team that was like 6-6 and won a national championship with them. Like
that is the craziest thing too, because it's like the quarterback, having a good quarterback can really change a team that much. And I'm hoping that that's what Hank Brown can be for us now. The redshirt freshman.
Maybe so. Yeah. Because I think about too the times that, with Auburn, and like one of the things I brought up that I hate about them, which again, people are going to take it seriously. And maybe you can help me out with this because you are an Auburn person. I don't know if you're this way. I hate it to when I if I have an iPhone, I also like having a MacBook. I also like having an Apple TV. I like having all my brands together because they connect and they talk together.
Right.
Okay. I don't want my football programs being the Tigers, but we say War Eagle and then we throw toilet paper on trees and none of it makes sense or connects. So help me out with that.
I'll use Alabama as an example. Their mascot is an elephant.
Exactly.
And they say Roll Tide. So
doesn't make sense.
We're not the only ones.
True.
What y'all have got going on with y'all's little chant is
Woo Pig Suey.
Yeah, that's
calling the Hogs.
Not as strange as the Texas A&M Yell Leaders, but
we can all get an agreement with that. There's nothing weirder than that stuff, whatever they have going on. Like if you have to take classes and training to go to the college football game of your choice and to be able to like participate in it, you don't, that's terrible. Like no one should have to go to a class and training on how to do something.
No, I really wanted for the March Madness bracket challenge, the Dunaway, Brown, and Lance always have a punishment. So between the three of them, whoever does the worst, the rest of us come up with the punishment. And I really want the loser to have to go try out to be yell leader. You're not going to make it because you're not enrolled in school there, but you have to participate in tryouts.
I'd rather just God take me and just call it good.
Exactly. Hey, that's why it's called a punishment.
That's right. So, okay, I know we've agreed too much. This is bad because we got to get to somewhere else. But I was curious because obviously Alabama, number one rival to Auburn. That's no brainer. Georgia, obviously, another big rival. Is there a third team that you would consider in the SEC specifically that's like that team is like doesn't have to be a rival, but just like your third most hated team, I guess?
Ooh. Not really. I mean, I think that my opinion on this is also skewed because I grew up, all of my friends in elementary school, middle school, high school, the majority of my friends went to Alabama and were Alabama fans growing up, and they are the most insufferable people to be around when it comes to college football. And so they made me have the most negative view of all Alabama fans because I was a lone soldier. I was a lone Auburn soldier growing up. And so after the Iron Bowl, it's just, okay, school's going to be awful tomorrow when I go into fourth grade, you know? But that's like all of my energy and anger and frustration has been directed towards Alabama since I was a small child. And I think it's because my friends terrorized me when I was little. But Georgia, I haven't even, which this is going to sound probably like bad, negative, whatever. It's realistic though. Georgia, last year, it was a close game, which was not expected by anyone. But that I can't even really consider that a big, I mean, yes, they're a big rival, but that game hasn't really been that competitive as of recently.
Yeah.
Somehow the Iron Bowl always ends up being close. Not always, but the majority of the time it somehow ends up being close no matter how good or bad a team is. But the Georgia game is just, it's gotten a little out of hand in the recent past.
The fact that y'all lost that Iron Bowl last year, I'm like, still, hey, listen, like Razorback fans know about losing games in tremendous fashion, but that was.
And the worst part about that was I did not go. I think I'm going to watch this with my friends. I'm not going to go cover it. So after, I'm still getting sent all the content that needs to go out on social media for the next round. So it's like I'm sitting there wanting to smash my head into a wall, and my phone's, I'm getting text after text after text of these videos I have to send out. And, you know, I'm impartial in my job.
Of course.
And so I'm sitting here with like, that was one of the most dark times of my working career, I would say. Because I was like, all I want to do is drown in my sorrow. But I'm having to post videos of Alabama celebrating.
Yeah, well, I can appreciate that. But sister, you come to the wrong place for any people giving you sympathy on disaster and depression when it comes to their football program. I can tell you that. So
it's hard.
It is. It is tough. It is very tough. But it's Taylor Korn. She is part of the next round out of Birmingham, Alabama. Also a resident Auburn fan, but an impartial and very professional Big J journalist and reporter and media person. So want everyone to make sure that they know that. But either way, Taylor, appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the game on Saturday. I'm sure it'll not be stupid and crazy and nonsensical whatsoever. And both of us will be happy with the result no matter what. Yeah. We just hope both teams have fun.
You can leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you again, though.